Hello everyone, it's Tim Johnson here, Manx NFU President, and
Andy Cooper, General Secretary of Manx NFU.
We just wanted to really give you an update on the situation as we know it, especially on self-isolation, which is obviously a word that's been bandied around a lot at the moment, and I know there's a bit of confusion about what it means. So if you can bear with us, we might be a bit clunky with this as it's the first time we've had a go at it, sitting in the kitchen, but you know, we just wanted to sort of get the message over to you, how important it is, and how important it is that we as farmers plan and have contingency plans going forward to deal with this situation. It's going to be a very difficult time for everybody, but we will get through it by working together and helping each other out. We'll get through this. But as I say, if we can just maybe give you some more information, some more updates on self-isolation and what it means, and understand that, you know, as farmers we can't be treated any differently to anybody else, and we have to adhere to those rules. So hopefully we can try and explain them to you in a way that's easier than 3 or 4 pages of text and very clunky and difficult. So bear with us and we'll have a go.
Yeah, if it looks like we're looking at a laptop a lot, that's because we are. We couldn't memorise all of this, so we've put down some notes and we're going to talk through them and discuss what everybody's been discussing with us on the phones. We get phone calls first thing in the morning, last thing at night, asking what if, and under this scenario, how could I? The conclusion we've come to after seeking advice is self-isolation means self-isolation.
We're going to go into detail on what self-isolation means, but if you fall into the category for self-isolation, you should remain in your home. You cannot work on the farm or surrounding area, and you cannot travel to other areas of the holding. You cannot attend to livestock on your holding, and you must abide by all the rules of self-isolation. Otherwise, you risk being prosecuted. Okay, and at the moment they're talking about up to a £10,000 fine or up to 3 months in prison. The important thing to remember here is that as soon as you leave your home or your garden and walk onto the farm, you're going into your workplace, okay? And this is where it's difficult, and we appreciate it's really difficult and quite frustrating, but once you're in that workplace, you're at risk. And if you are self-isolating, if you've got symptoms and you decide to go out onto the farm and something happens to you which requires others to help, say, for example, emergency services, then you're breaking the law, you're putting others at risk, okay? But we'll go into that a little bit more. Okay.
So I'll give you the whole government spiel on self-isolation and when it's required. So self-isolation is required in each of the following circumstances. Anyone arriving at the Isle of Man must self-isolate for 14 days. That one's pretty straightforward. If you do not have symptoms such as a new continuous cough or a high temperature, the other members of the household do not need to self-isolate, just the person who's returned to the Isle of Man. But you've got to stay separate, or they've got to stay separate. Regardless of travel, anyone displaying symptoms such as a new continuous cough or a high temperature must self-isolate for 14 days. You may have been nowhere, but if you've got a new continuous cough or a high temperature, that's it, 14 days self-isolation. If you live with someone who's displaying symptoms such as a new continuous cough or a high temperature, then every single person in that household must self-isolate for 14 days. And if anyone else in the household develops a new continuous cough or a high temperature during that time, then the clock resets and everybody has to isolate for another 14 days from the date they first present with those symptoms. It's a difficult one to go around, because you could end up, if you've got 4 people in the house, you could end up self-isolated for 60 days as people develop a cough, but that's the law.
That's the law. So
yeah.
Ultimately, if you're self-isolating within that 14-day basic period, you cannot work on the farm. You have got to have contingency plans in place for someone else to come and be able to help.
Let's move back one, because the biggest question I've been asked every day this week: why can't I continue to farm if I'm self-isolating? I would not come into contact with anyone as my farm itself is isolated. So this is the definition we've had back, and this is based on the legal advice and all of the other information we've had back to the office. So a farm, a small holding, a stable, a field, a barn, a workshop, a parlour, or any other extension to your home outside of the garden, it's a place of leisure or work by definition. And by continuing to visit that place, you'd be breaching the rules on self-isolation, and you'd be liable. And not only would you be liable, you would be putting other people at risk. If you were to have an accident, as Tim said earlier, and the emergency services had to visit your farm, you could contaminate them because you've taken that risk of stepping outside of your garden and going to work, and they could catch the illness. They could then pass the virus on to an elderly person who dies. But the consequences are unimaginable of how far it could go, which is why self-isolation is so.
And it's going to be really difficult. We appreciate that. You'd be slowly being driven mad in the house, and you'd just be wanting to jump in the truck and drive down the road and check some stock down the road. But the thing is, as soon as you do that, you're breaking the law. And if you had an accident or something went wrong in that situation, you are breaking the law. That is how we understand the situation to be.
The other big question we keep getting asked: if you've got stock calving or lambing or needing 24 hours monitoring, all we can say is cover this in a contingency plan. You must self-isolate and you must stay at home.
Okay. Nightmare situation, phone call in the middle of the night. We've all been there, stock are out on the road. If you're in self-isolation, you cannot go out to sort that situation out. You have to have a plan in place, you have to have somebody in place who can go and sort that out for you. You cannot do it. Okay.
And then there's the straightforward do's and don'ts. So if you're in self-isolation, the first one at the top of the list: do not go to work or school or anywhere. Do not visit any public areas, do not attend any public gatherings, do not use public transport, do not go to the shops, do not buy food, do not buy other essentials. Arrange to have them delivered. Online shopping, or ask on Facebook and get someone to drop it off. Friends, relatives can leave things at the end of the lane. Do not invite any of these people into your home. You can go outside in what's classed as the garden area of your home only. That's the only you can on the whole list.
So really, as I say, we said at the start, you've got to have this contingency plan in place. Just think about the situation. If you're ill, you can't work, what's going to happen? Think about what needs doing on the farm, thinking about who could come and help, making sure they understand what needs doing. It needs to be written down, it needs to be put somewhere, agreed, so someone knows where to be able to access that information. Okay, so we really got to think about these things.
We can hold all of the information for contingency plans, and you can tell people we've got it, and they can get in touch, and we can send it out to whoever, because your contingency plan, it sounds silly, it has to have a contingency for the contingency in it. So if your first point of call is your next door neighbour, and you've both agreed to watch each other's farm should one of you come down with the virus, that's great. But what if you both come down with it at the same time? So you always need to have a fallback, even if this is a paid worker you've never met before, if it's someone from the other end of the island. But think about all of that in your contingency plan. Who would farm if you can't? There's lots of groups on Facebook, such as the Isle of Man Rural Support Group, there's the Manx NFU group, there's even Help Isle of Man, which you can go on there and look for contacts and people who will be willing to come and step up and help out. It would be nice in a specialist case, especially if people are milking or lambing or calving, to have agricultural support, but that may not be available. So your contingency plan needs to cover all possible contingencies. All we can stress is plan.
This is difficult for everybody, we know it is, and in some ways it's maybe taken us all a bit of time just to realise the seriousness of the situation, but we all have to, we all have to play our part in this, and we're here, to listen, to give any advice, any help at all. Please don't hesitate to contact us. Don't be shy or embarrassed about asking for help in these situations, because we're all in the same boat across the island. We really must stress that. Don't worry about what other people think, because again, we're all in the same boat. The main thing is that we get through this as a farming community. We get through this as an island, and we all have to help each other out as much as we can to get through it.
I think as well, everyone should be asking for help with their contingency plan. Ask for help from your next door neighbour, your cousin, even someone you don't like. Everybody needs to step up and chip in, because the only way we will get through it is if we ask for help. Nobody out there could sit down and write a contingency plan, tick all of the boxes and sit down quite comfortably and say, right, everything's covered no matter what happens. If everybody asks to help and everyone's willing to give help, then that is a possibility.
Okay.
And the last bit, plan for the worst case scenario. plan for the entire household being isolated, and for your first choice of cover to be isolated as well. And if your contingency plan covers all of that, then chances are you've got a good, robust contingency plan.
You know, let's hope that most of us aren't going to have to do any of this, but we don't know. Nobody knows at this stage. All we can do, and I think it's only the right and the fair thing to do, is that we listen to the advice, we listen to the scientific advice, we listen to the advice coming from government. I think, you know, we don't need too many armchair experts at the moment. I think we need to listen to what's been said, and we need to do our bit to make sure we get this industry and help to get the island through this incredible time. But we'll do it.
Yeah, well, thank you for listening.